about the motor development, and after that we have also discussed about the sensory abilities. Sensory abilities की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, then we're going to describe very briefly related to all 5 sense organ. How does development proceeds in an infant, right? You can go through this. It's given on page number 70. Fine. Now let us start with the next topic with the same stage, infancy, but another kind of development. What is it? It is cognitive development, right? Now what happens under this development, as it is very important from exam point of view also and from our subject's point of view also, that what kind of cognitive development takes place in an infant. What is his thinking all about? How do he think? How do he understand various kinds of concepts available in the environment, right? So what is the main thing? What you have to remember whenever we talk about cognitive development related to children, related to infants, there was a psychologist named Jean Piaget. You can underline if you can see the word. It's given on page number 71. Cognitive development, third line. A very renowned psychologist. Why? Because he has done lot of researches related to children's cognitive development, right? So Jean Piaget stressed that children actively construct their understanding of the world. As a child, as an infant, they just does not take the things as it is from the environment, but they actively construct their thinking process step by step. Gradually, it is in the increasing mode. Information does not simply enter their minds. In whose mind? In infant mind, from the environment. If an infant is looking something, he is not just simply taking it, he is also actively constructing his mind step by step, that we're going to discuss further. He believed that a child's mind passes through a series of stages of thought from infancy to adolescence, as he was mainly concerned with children, right? So he had studied about infants, about early childhood, late childhood. So he is saying that a child's mind passes through a series of stages of thought. There are various kind of thought that we're going to discuss later in this chapter only. So there are various stages of thought process. Mind passes thinking and is age related. This is very simple. You all can understand this, that every stage is characterized by a distinct way of thinking. When you were infant, your thought process, your thinking process was different. When you were a child, it has changed. And now as an adolescent, as a teenager, you have a very distinct way of thinking, understanding things differently, and it is age related. Yes, at particular stage, every stage has having a particular age group, so it is related to distinct way of thinking first, and then second is what? It is age related, right? It is important to remember that it is the different way of thinking which makes one stage more advanced than the other, and not the amount of information. Very important thing. See, if we compare two stages, right? If we compare two stages, suppose let's take childhood and adolescence. Fine. So what is the difference between the thing? That it's very obvious the thinking pattern will be different. An 8-year-old child will think will have a different kind of thinking, and as a 14 or 15-year-old child will have a different kind of thinking, right? But what is the difference? How it is differentiating? That the way of thinking is, making one stage more advanced than the other, but not the amount of information. ऐसा नहीं है कि एडोलेसेंट के पास में इंफॉर्मेशन ज्यादा है एज कंपेयर टू चाइल्ड, दैट इज व्हाई इट इज मोर एडवांस्ड और इट इज डिफरेंट. नो, द वे ही इज थिंकिंग, एन एडोलेसेंट, how he is thinking or how he is solving something is different from an 8-year-old child. So this is what differentiate between the two stages, the way of thinking and not the amount of information. If you can underline this, please underline, it's very important. Cognitive development may underline the name of the psychologist. Then each stage is characterized by a distinct way of thinking and it is age related. This is feature, this is one feature. The next feature is what? That different way of thinking makes one stage more advanced than the other and not the amount of information. Very important second feature. Now what else? This also shows why you at your age you think differently from an 8-year-old child, right? This we have discussed. Now the child during infancy, that is the first 2 years of life, experiences the world through senses and interaction with objects. As we have discussed in sensory abilities, how he is interacting with his environment through his sense organs, right? And by all kind of sense organs, like by looking, hearing, touching, mouthing, and grasping. The newborn lives in the present. Now, what is different under this cognitive development? This we have discussed under sensory abilities. Through sense organs, he is interacting with the environment. What is the key feature of cognitive development? That newborn lives in the present. What is out of sight is out of mind. Another important thing, please underline. What it is saying, that first of all, the newborn lives in the present. No past, no future. Second, what is out of sight is out of mind. What does it mean? For example, if you hide the toy in front of the child with which the child has been playing, the young infant would react as if nothing has happened. That is, she or he will not search for the toy. The child assumes the toy does not exist. According to Piaget, children at this stage do not go beyond their immediate sensory experience, that is, lack of object permanence. Now I'll explain you everything again. First of all, when I say that newborn lives in the present, or when I say that what is out of sight is out of mind, what does it mean? Through this example, as you got understanding, that if an infant is playing with a toy, fine, and we just hide that toy. We just hide that toy. He's playing with a lot of toys, and among those toys, we just took one and we hide that toy. What happened? He will not react. He will not react. Why? Because he does not able to realize the thing that what he'll start thinking. If I am not able to look at that toy, if I am not able to see that toy does not exist. He will not search for it. Suppose a pencil is there, right? He's playing with a pencil and we just hide that pencil. He will not search for that pencil. He will start playing with other things available in front of his eyes. Whatever things he can see, he is playing with it. He is not searching for the lost thing. What, according to an infant, what is the thinking pattern? Whatever is not looking, whatever is not observed, it is also not existing. Fine. So this is what is out of sight. It is also out of mind. The things which he is not able to see is get out of his mind. Right? He immediately forget. Next important thing, that they do not go beyond their immediate sensory experience. Sensory experience की बात करते हैं तो जब हम देखते हैं तो what kind of sense organ is involved? Eye is involved, right? So what the infant is taking these things in what manner? That if immediate sensory experience is there, then so he is able to take the information. But as soon as that sensory experience vanished, immediate one, so he will not search for the thing, right? Another term, very important term, it is also related to the same thing, immediate sensory experience. What is it? Lack object permanence. What does it mean? As an adult, as an adolescent, we all understand that object is permanent. Suppose I'm showing you this notebook, right? And I just keep it here. So you will understand that maybe ma'am has kept that notebook somewhere at other place. You will not take the things, if I am not able to see that notebook does not exist. It vanished all of a sudden. Okay, गायब हो गई वो, exist हो गई. No, maybe I have kept it somewhere else, or I can give it to anyone else. So the thing is that object is permanent no matter if we are not able to see it, we are not able to observe it. But this object permanence is lacked by an infant. Infant lack object permanence, right? Underline this word. The awareness that the objects continue to exist when not perceived. If 1 mark question will be there, that what do you understand by object permanence? What does it mean? The awareness that the objects still continue to exist if also they are not visible, if we cannot perceive them. But infants lack this object permanence. This is a very important feature of cognitive development, right? What else? The basis of verbal communication seems to be present in infants. They are saying that yes, the basis of verbal communication, how do they interact, how do they speak, or how do they, take out certain sounds. Not even speaking is there proper, but sounds are there. What kind of sounds? Vocalization begins with the infant's babbling. You all have seen, right? Infants babble. They just make some kind of noises, sound. So vocalization begins at 3 to 6 months of age. No need to learn the time period 3 to 6 months. Just get this understanding that yes, the basis of verbal communication is there. It is present in infants. Fine. So this is all about the cognitive development of an infant. Now let's proceed to other topic, socio-emotional development. Same, we are talking about infants. Now we're going to discuss that what are the social or emotional development that occurs in an infant. As we have just discussed in the beginning, when we started with infancy, that infants always prefer to see faces, human faces, right? So the same thing, babies from birth are social creatures. An infant starts preferring familiar faces and responds to parents' presence by cooing and gurgling. All have seen infants doing this gesture whenever they see familiar faces, whenever they see their parents, their grandparents, their siblings, they start making this noise of cooing and gurgling, right? They become more mobile by 6 to 8 months of age and start showing a preference for their mother's company. Again, no need to learn the time period when they start, being mobile by 6 to 8 months. Just keep this in mind that they show preferences for familiar faces and they start, liking their mother's company particularly. When frightened by a new face or when separated from their mother, they cry or show distress. Now, this is important. Whenever they, are taken from their mother's hand or they cannot see their mother, they started crying and a kind of distress or discomfort is there. We can easily see. On being reunited with the parent or caregiver, they reciprocate with smiles or hugs. And when they find their mother again, when they see their mother's face or any caregiver, they again show a very good gesture of smile and hugs, right? Now, what else? What is important under social emotional development? We're going to discuss about 2 experiments, 2 studies, very important regarding this development. The first one has been done by Hullo and Hullo. This is a name of a psychologist. In 1962, the psychologists have done this study. The close emotional bond of affection that develop between infants and their parents. They are writing in bracket caregivers. It is not necessary that parents are alive or parents are, living with that infant. So any caregiver, any caretaker. So write this in the bracket. It's very important that close emotional bond of affection. All infants share a very close emotional bond of affection with their parents or with their caregiver. So it is known as attachment. Another important term, what is attachment? The close emotional bond between the infants and their parents or the caregiver, right? So this is known as attachment. Now, the classic study by Hallo and Hallo, what he has done, baby monkeys were separated from their mothers approximately 8 hours after birth. In this study, what he has taken monkeys, right? So after 8 hours of birth, the baby monkeys were separated from their mothers. The baby monkeys were placed in an experimental chambers and reared for 6 months by surrogate or substitute mothers. Now they have been separated from their biological mother, right? And now what happened, for 6 months they were reared by whom? Surrogate mothers or substitute mothers. Now what are these type of mothers? See, these what he has taken mothers made up of wire, surrogate and substitute mothers that are not living objects. They were non-living, but they were in a proper shape of a mother monkey, right? So one made up of wire and the other of cloth. Now in surrogate mothers also there were two varieties. एक किसकी बनी थी? Wire की, right? Which is very uncomfortable, which is very hard, and other is made up of clothes, very soft clothes, right? So half the baby monkeys were fed by the wire mother, half by the cloth mother. Regardless of whether they were fed by the wire or the cloth mother, the baby monkeys always showed a preference for the cloth mother. The mother, the surrogate mother, which was made up of clothes, right? And spent a lot more time with her. So what does it showing? That baby monkeys preferred the cloth mother as compared to wire mother. Now what does it show? This study clearly demonstrates that providing nourishment or feeding was not crucial for attachment, and contact or comfort is important. If you can look at these lines, please underline, very important, the conclusion of the study. Now what this study, what the behavior of monkeys were showing, that they were not very much, serious about the nourishment or feeding, that who is giving, what kind of food they are getting, right? But the most important for them is what? The contact, first of all, and the comfort. Contact with their mother and the comfort level, right? So this was the conclusion of the study. Please underline these lines. You too may have seen young children having a strong attachment to a favorite toy or blanket. Now, if we see in human child, if we see this tendency in a human child, you all have seen that infants generally show preference for a particular kind of toy, and it is usually very soft in nature, usually a teddy bear or any kind of soft toy, right? Or a blanket. So you have seen infants always sleep by keeping those toys or by just hugging them, by putting their arms around it, and then they go for sleep. There is nothing unusual in this, as the children know that the blanket or toy is not their mother. They know that this is not my mother, but still they are getting a kind of attachment, a kind of comfort, a kind of security from these objects. So they prefer keeping these objects nearby. As children grow and become more sure of themselves, they abandon these objects. And as we grow gradually, so we do not do this kind of behavior because we become more secure, we become more sure of ourselves. So automatically these things abandon, right? This was one study related to baby monkeys. It was related to attachment, right? What was the conclusion? That nourishment and feeding is not important for baby monkeys, but the kind of contact and comfort they are getting. This was one study. Now next study, human babies also form an attachment with their parents or caregivers. Very obvious that human babies also have this tendency. Now regarding human babies, who has done the study? Erik Erikson. Underline the name of the psychologist. Erik Erikson was the psychologist who has done this study related to human babies. What he has done? According to Erik Erikson, the first year of life is the key time for the development of attachment. He is also doing the study related to attachment. Attachment, you all remember, the close emotional bond between an infant and his parents or caregiver. Fine. So he has done the study or experiment to show that development of attachment is there. It represents the stage of developing trust or mistrust. Now, what is the key term under this study you're going to use? We have done attachment in Hallo and Hallo experiment related to baby monkeys. Now, when Eric Erikson is doing the study, what he want to test the feeling of trust or mistrust. Now, upon this basis, upon these words, we're going to explain the things. So this is very important. Underline feeling of trust or mistrust. Now, how does it proceed? A sense of trust is built on a feeling of physical comfort, which builds an expectation of the world as a secure and good place. See, an infant develops a sense of trust only when he is getting comfort from his parents or caregiver. Understanding why? Because he also start taking that external world or the environment outside is also a very good and secure place to live. So he is developing a sense of trust by getting the comfort from his parents or caregiver. An infant sense of trust is developed by responsive and sensitive parenting. Now, how this trust will develop? If parents are very sensitive, very emotional, very caring, concerned, and sensitive. So for this, responsive and sensitive parenting is very important, right? For building this feeling of trust, what is important? The parent should be responsive. They should respond whenever there is a need, right? And sensitive. If the parents are sensitive, affectionate, and accepting, it provides the infant a strong base to explore the environment. If an infant is getting all these primary things from his parents, then he is all ready to explore the environment, to experiment with the environment, to have new kind of experiences with the external world. On the other hand, if parents are insensitive and show dissatisfaction and always find fault with the child, it can lead to creating feelings of self-doubt in the child. Now, on the other, we're going to explain about the parents who are, always dissatisfied with the performance. They always take out fault in children and they are not responsive, they are insensitive. So what it is creating in an infant or in a child, it is creating a feeling of self-doubt. The child start believing that there must be some fault in my behavior only. There must be some fault in, my performance only, because every time my parents are dissatisfied with my performance. So what kind of self-doubt arises in a child's mind? Securely attached infants respond positively when picked up, move freely, and play, whereas insecurely attached infants feel anxious when separated and cry due to fear and get upset. Now, all these things you have to now observe very keenly in your environment, right? Whenever you see an infant, just notice all these things. After going through this content, you can easily locate that if you find an infant, whenever we separate an infant from his mother or his father, he started crying, right? He started showing distress. But if a child is very secure and still you just take him for a while from his parent, he will not, show that kind of discomfort or distress, or he will not become upset. A close interactive relationship with warm and affectionate adults is a child's first step towards healthy development. Now, whenever we talk about healthy development, what is the first step? What is the primary need? A close interactive relationship should be there, with warm and affectionate adults. Then only the child is ready to explore the environment, and it is the very prime requirement of a healthy development. Now, this is all about the infancy stage. We're going to start with childhood from tomorrow. Ma'am, we can stop with the recording.